It shouldn't surprise you that ESPN is once again trying to dig their hand deep into the college football cookie jar. And all that's left for the Big 12 is oatmeal raisin.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Happy Wednesday to you. Happy hump day, if you will. We're going to dig into some interesting topics today. We're going to dig into the college football playoff buzz that has everybody just out of their minds with what is possibly rumored to be in the future of this new playoff bracket. We're going to talk about how tampering is an all-time high, and we're going to end off with some news about the end of the year. But before we do that, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. monarchmoney.com. So, biggest thing that we talk about here on this Wednesday, and I'm looking through the news, getting ready to prep for my show, and this hits my feed. This hits my email. ESPN Plus, exclusive content from Heather Dinich. College football playoff buzz, 5 topics on the table this week. And it's talking about how the leaders of the college football playoff are gathering in Texas. They're currently there right now. Started on Tuesday. It goes, I think, towards the end of the week, up basically till the NFL draft. And they're going to talk about the future of the playoff format, all the stuff about who will become, basically how do you determine who the national championship will be from 2026 and beyond. Now, for the record, it doesn't sound like there's going to be any drastic changes right away because you need unanimous need from the G5 and all the other conferences for any sort of changes to happen right away. But that changes after this immediate season for the future, right? And a lot of that goes into favor, surprise, surprise, of the Big Ten and the SEC. That's why I said the Big 12, once again, is in a bad spot when it comes to college football, sitting in second place or even third place behind the Big Ten and the SEC. I like to put them both really as number one right now. They're kind of just sitting back and forth with the tied for one spot, those two conferences. And the Big 12, ACC, and other conferences are fighting for crumbs in the cookie jar that seems to be growing smaller and smaller for all the other conferences except these two Power 2 conferences that we like to call them now. And it sounds like the one who is making the cookies and leaving the crumbs for everyone else, in this case, oatmeal raisin, as I mentioned, for the Big 12. And for the record, I actually like oatmeal raisin. Oatmeal chocolate chip is like the best, little best of both worlds, not the raisin part, but moving on. I will say this. The biggest, craziest thing that has happened with this conversation is that under these new formats that are under consideration, of course, you have this current 12-team format seeds. You have a possibility of a 14-team model that guarantees spots the Big Ten, 4 of them to the Big Ten, 4 to the SEC, and only 2 to the ACC and Big 12. I see that stuff coming. 1 maybe going to the group of 5 and 1 going to Notre Dame if they're good enough. I see that stuff happening. But the biggest issue that I have with all of this is this one little line that came in, and I wonder if it was just to put the line in there to see if we'll react because it worked, or was it just something that maybe we are taking way out of proportion? I hope that's the case, but here it is. It is also possible other league leaders come to the table with ideas, and these ideas talk about the possibility that one could be viewed as a compromise of having conferences earn automatic bids through their play each season. Sounds good there. A model in which each of the Power 4 leagues can earn guaranteed spots through a combination of its team's overall records. And it says teams, so it would be a conference view. And then here's the sticker here. And maybe even TV ratings, according to a source. And whatever that source is, I don't know. I don't pretend to have sources here. I want to react to this type of news. And that's exactly what I'm going to give you on this show. Pure reactions. Don't ever come here for a source, because I'm giving you just a full, unfiltered take about how this is just absolutely egregious. If we are going to make this sport that we love, going back to a take that I had a few days ago, the pillars of college football, tradition, rivalry, and fans, nowhere do I see that having as TV ratings. And oh, by the way, it comes ironic because this post comes from ESPN Plus. But who has the biggest pull when it comes to manipulating the TV ratings? Good old ESPN. Good old ESPN. And ESPN has done a really good job as of late, keeping the SEC afloat above all the other conferences to make sure that they do what other conferences can't and get themselves in front in the spotlight and be seen as this premier football and basketball conference. If the Big 12 had the same exact pull as the SEC did when it came to the media rights and ESPN, we would be talking the same exact way as the Big 12 or as the SEC. We'd be talking the exact same way about this conference that we are in right now. Brent Yormark would be the guy they'd be talking about week by week on a basis, not Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC. It just wouldn't be the case. There'd be no reason to talk about the SEC because the Big 12 would have all this great momentum thanks to this media deal. And the crazy thing about it is that the Big 12 has an agreement with ESPN. It's just not as good as the SEC, right? So the Big 10 and SEC have the bulk of control over the future format, as we mentioned before. Also talks about the promise of the power that was part of the last contracts negotiation. This is obviously an issue. And I'm not going to go ahead and pretend and talk to you here saying that there should be an equal balance. I think there should be. And honestly, I don't even know if you should have automatic bids. We can go down that rabbit hole another day. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and think that that's going to happen in the near future. If we move to a 12 or 14 team playoff, we're at 12 now, but if we move to 14 and they want to give 4 automatic bids to each the Big 10 and the SEC, okay, fine. If that means that you can guarantee me that I have 2 Big 12 teams in the race every single opportunity, because then we can prove not only just on a one-time deal, but 2 teams in. You can't just put the Big 12 in a situation where they're going to be screwed every single time. Because for the record, if you have just one Big 12 school, and this goes for the ACC as well, who's to stop the committee from putting them in a situation right off the bat to have them run through a gauntlet to make it nearly impossible for them, or at least the biggest odds possible, lowest odds, I guess we should say, to make it all the way to the national championship, to rig it, to set it up so you have more Big 10 teams having an opportunity to get deeper into the run. If you have 2, that obviously makes that situation a lot harder to do. We saw what Arizona State did in the college football playoffs. They were 1 play away from going to the next round. If BYU would have made it, which they should have made it over SMU this past college football playoffs, we would have had that type of situation. We would have had 2 Big 12 teams in the mix. This coming season, we are going to have 2 Big 12 teams in the mix because we're going to earn it. And this committee is not going to have an opportunity to say no to these teams. The only way that doesn't happen is if we take this huge step back and it's a dog-eat-dog conference once again, and parity is always in question, and there's no team that sticks out above the rest. I don't think that happens this year. I think there are a few teams that are above the others, and Kansas State is most definitely one of them. I've said this entire offseason. I think Kansas State and BYU are my favorites to go to the Big 12 championship. And both those teams, regardless who wins or loses that game, should have a good enough resume to be in the college football playoffs. There's a couple other things that talk about in this article as well. Get to real quick, talking about the deal of the automatic qualifiers. The biggest thing why they want to have these automatic qualifiers in the future, mainly talking about the Big 12 and SEC, is that if you have 4 teams that are an automatic buyer, automatic qualifier for this playoffs, it guarantees that both your two teams for your college football, or excuse me, your SEC championship or your Big Ten championship make it in. And then you also get to have this play-in kind of mini SEC tournament or mini Big Ten tournament between your 3 and your 6 seed and your 4 and your 5 seeds. And those winners can also go as well. So it adds more opportunities, and more opportunities mean more revenue. More revenue means more money down the line when it comes to what this potential settlement case is going to happen down the road. It all comes back to adding more facilities, being more of a team, a program that you want kids that come and play for, and it keeps you at that higher tier. And it all comes back down to TV ratings. That's where it could end up. This reminds me of a couple years ago where they kept Florida State out of the college football playoffs because Jordan Travis, their quarterback, was injured, and they thought that although they were undefeated, they didn't deserve to be there. So they put in Alabama. Oh, an SEC team. Interesting. Will that happen again? Will we have a 11-1, 10-2 Kansas State or BYU, the loser of the Big 12 championship game come December, miss out because of a 9-3 SEC team who didn't even make the SEC tournament? That sounds like a pretty familiar situation, doesn't it? That kind of happened just in the past couple seasons, possibly even last year. A lot of things to keep your mind on when you're thinking about this possibility of what is changing, but I will say this: the world of college athletics, especially college football as we know it, is no longer here. And when this new settlement case is finalized, which we're going to get into more later on in the afternoon episode, it's really going to change. I mean, a nuclear bomb on college athletics, if you will. It's going to completely change the landscape as we see it. These pillars that I talk about, this fans, the rivalry, the tradition, will be no more. It will be no more. Also talks about if the selection committee will stay the same. They say, yeah, it'll be fine. And then, which is interesting, right? I know we have some thoughts on the Big 12 when it comes to the basketball selection committee. Shout out West Virginia for that one. And talk about if the seeding system will change this fall. And as I mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, you have to have unanimous decision for anything to change right away. And that probably won't happen because why would a group of 5 team that just got Boise State in as a first round bye want to change the seeding system when they have any type of leverage for at least one more season? So I don't think anything is going to change, because if they do change, that means that you're basically automatically saying that the group of 5 team will automatically be the 12 seed no matter what, and then face the 5 seed, who could be Notre Dame, could be an 11-0 Notre Dame or something, or 12-0 Notre Dame, right? So I don't see it happening whatsoever. We'll see what happens in the future, but I don't think that happens as of right now. That's not the only thing that is a big deal in college athletics right now. The portal is just closing, getting ready to close on the football window, the final 10-day period in the spring transfer portal. And tampering is at an all-time high. Why is that? Is it because of what we are hearing from the settlement hearing? Is it because of TV ratings? I don't think it's that. But we'll talk about what we're hearing about the tampering and why it has been an immediate impact from Kansas State over the last couple years. We'll talk about that next, right here on Locked On Kansas State. Today's episode of Locked On Kansas State is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. No, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch Money, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget much smarter, save more. Thank you, Monarch Money, for your help. So take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We are growing here on this channel. We are trying to get 1,000 subscribers as quickly as possible because that just sounds like a really cool thing to do. So if you are a listener and if you are a loyal listener, I thank you. And if not, hit that subscribe button. Join the revolution here at Locked On Kansas State. We're talking really some interesting topics, and the topics here are frustrating, but it's just the way of the world when it comes to this new look of college athletics. And I've said this in the past, when it comes to some of these situations, it's an adapt or die model, especially when you're talking about the transfer portal, when you're talking about NIL, trying to get with the times. We're seeing multiple legendary coaches in both the college football and college basketball realms, Nick Saban for one, Jim Boeheim of Syracuse of another, leaving because they don't like this new world. They don't think players can be coached the same way because all they're worried about is getting a bag. And they're not wrong. And again, I am not advocating or not advocating for this to happen. I think it was more than overdue. I think that there's probably a better way to do it as it is right now of this whole wild, wild west situation. I'm not sure if the settlement hearing that is going to most likely be finalized in the next few weeks is the right decision either, but it might be the step in the right direction that you're looking for. Because this is so new when it comes to the transfer portal, NIL, everything, you name it. This is something that's going to take some time. And we're in 2025. When we get to 2035, we might have a solid answer and a solid grasp on what's going on with this whole world. And we might finally have some solid rules and regulations and maybe a good governing body overall that's not called the NCAA, because that might be the answer as well. But these kids, they want a bag, and that's no problem at all, unless they're doing it the wrong way. And in this case, there was an opportunity for a kid to do it the wrong way, and it didn't happen. And it happened right in the backyard of the Big 12 in Colorado. If you saw this, Deion Sanders called out the University of Virginia, an ACC school, for tampering with one of his players, a running back that was not in the transfer portal. Deion Sanders, instead of going to the NCAA and putting out a ruling and putting out a complaint that probably would have been answered in 2035, as I mentioned, because they don't even know what to do when they get any type of complaints. This is a terrible, terrible body of organization that the NCAA is. He just went to social media and took care of it himself. Now, obviously, nothing's going to happen from this other than maybe a recruit doesn't go to Virginia because of the presence of Deion Sanders on social media. That goes a long way in the world of college athletics these days. The amount of impressions that you can push out to kids, out to folks on social media has a huge presence. And Deion Sanders arguably has the biggest presence in all of college athletics right now, being the head coach in Boulder. But he went to social media, put a camera right in the locker room, asked the kid, said, "Who offered you a bag?" The kid said Virginia, and said, "Stop doing it." Straight up called out UVA. And I love that. I'm not going to lie. I thought that was pretty cool because he took matters into his own hands. Now, you can love or hate Deion Sanders, and I think there's obviously a side on each. People have a lot of views for Deion Sanders, what they think about him as a person, as a football coach, whatever the case may be. But I will say this, he's not the only one. UVA is not the only one that's doing this. There's 130-something Division I FBS teams in college football, and I guarantee all of them are doing it. This is a Kansas State podcast. I don't have any sources, but I would say that they're probably doing it too. They're probably fighting it off, and they're probably doing it as well. Are they doing it at a huge level? Probably not. Are they doing it? I don't know. And I would like to think that they aren't. But at the same time, it's an adapt or die situation. If everyone's doing it and you're not, are you truly doing everything you can to win? Sounds shady. Feels shady. Feels gross just saying it. But am I wrong? This is something that we've seen Kansas State be accused of just last year. And if you remember, this is very new. Last July, Colorado State's head coach Jay Norvell spoke out at media days of the Mountain West media days and talked about how his quarterback, I forgot his name, the quarterback there, Nikolai something like that, was being offered by Kansas State $600,000 to come to Manhattan after Will Howard hit the portal. Now, one, if you know Kansas State, why would they do that when they had Avery Johnson there? You knew that there was a great situation between, it was a best of both worlds for Will Howard and Kansas State to part ways because they knew Avery Johnson was going to be right there. If Will Howard would have stayed, Avery might have hit the portal. So why would you go ahead and bring in, his name was Braden Fowler Nicolsi. That's right. I don't know why I got Nikolai from, probably last name. Why would you bring in him, a Mountain West quarterback, to be at Kansas State if you had Avery Johnson? That wasn't the case. Now, there was some thoughts that it was a certain booster that made this call. Okay, got it. But it wasn't Coach Kleiman. It wasn't his coaching staff. That's the thing about this issue. And we're hearing it from other coaches as well. We heard it from UConn's coach, Jim Mora, saying there's no rules being followed. Tampering is rampant in the Big 12 as well. Scott Frost, former Nebraska coach, now back with UCF, the head coach as well, said, quote, "It's a constant negotiation. It's a bidding war for every single player, whether they're in the portal or not. That's the reality, whether people want to admit it or not." And that's exactly where we sit right now. It's not going away anytime soon. How do you fix it? I don't know if you fix it. But we'll say this. It's not the people that you think are doing this tampering. If you think it's Kansas State, if you think it's Coach Kleiman and his recruiting staff picking up the phone and calling a player who's not in the portal saying, "Hey, I think you'd be a good fit here. We'll give you a bag." And again, I'm not saying that the coaching staff is doing this at Kansas State. I'm just using them as an example because guess the show that we are right now, Locked on Kansas State. And by the way, hit subscribe if you are a Kansas State fan. But what I'm saying is that it's not them. It's these boosters. And that, I think, is something why they want this new settlement hearing to happen as well. The NCAA wants to find a way to get a grasp on this whole situation, try and find a way to regulate these third parties, which might make it even worse. Might have an SMU type of situation all over again. I mean, who knows? But it's the boosters that are making these calls. If anything happened with Colorado State last year between Kansas State and Colorado State, it wasn't the coaching staff. It was a booster, a rogue booster, if you will. Right? And that's probably the case that's happening in some of these other bigger cases we're hearing in college athletics right now with the whole Nico situation in Tennessee. It wasn't coaching staffs that were doing it. It was boosters. It was coaching staffs that apparently were they're blowing the whistle. We heard a rumor that Dan Lanning, the head coach of Oregon, let Tennessee know of the situation. If he's the one that was doing the situation, I'm sure he wasn't going to tell on himself. It was a rogue booster and also bad advice from his father on that one as well. We're going to dig in more to the Nico situation in just a little bit on this afternoon's episode because that's a fun one. It's a wild one as well. Just so much to talk about here. And when it comes to the college football playoffs, talk about with TV ratings, it's a terrible idea. Tampering's at an all-time high. Before these new laws of the land take over college athletics, is that why they're so bad? Because they're trying to find a way to get their team at the very best it possibly can be while these rogue boosters have the opportunity to do so. Because when this new settlement hearing comes in and these third parties may no longer have an opportunity to, once again, bringing back the same buzzword of the day, putting their hand in the cookie jar, is that why they're doing it right now? We see teams front-loading a lot of deals to bring players in. There's only a few days left in the portal. We haven't seen any of the major players from Kansas State leave. Although Tennessee really wanted Avery Johnson, he wasn't going anywhere. He's got his own lemonade. He ain't going anywhere. By the way, I ordered some of that. Very excited for that to come in the mail. Very excited for that to come in the mail. So what are you doing on New Year's Eve? I know what I'm going to be doing, and I'm pretty sure you're going to join me as well. Let's talk about that as we wrap up this show right here on Locked On Kansas State. Welcome back to the show, Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh. And do me a favor, hit subscribe. Stay subscribed. Do all that fun stuff that we like to do here on the show. Talking college football, just chaos, if you will, on this episode. But on a lighter note, what are you doing New Year's Eve? Because we start with the college football playoffs on this show with the wild things happening. We're going to end with the college football playoffs news on this show. And on a lighter note, the college football playoffs 2025 to 26 schedule for the bowls and national championship game dates have been announced. And I will be watching, and I will be watching closely, and probably most likely after one of these games, we'll have a live post-game show because Kansas State will be in the college football playoffs in 2025 TAC 26 college football season. I said it nice and slow so you can make sure you heard me on that one. No mistake. It's definitely happening. But here we go for the 4 playoff quarterfinals. It starts off on Wednesday, December 31st. I'm just going to read these times in Eastern time just because it's what's on the graphic. You get the Cotton Bowl that starts off on Wednesday, December 31st, New Year's Eve, 7:30 Eastern time on, you guessed it, ESPN. All of these games are on ESPN. If I had to explain that one to you, you might want to go back and watch the first segment. And then the other 3 games are on New Year's Day. So you get one on New Year's Eve, 7:30 Eastern, a Wednesday night, the Cotton Bowl, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. And then you get the Orange Bowl at noon on Thursday, New Year's Day. You get the Rose Bowl at 4, and you get the All-State Sugar Bowl at 8 p.m. So that's what the quarterfinals look like. I like it. Wednesday, Thursday games, I mean, it's interesting. You're also right in the thick of it with the NFL playoffs. So you got to find a way to make that happen. Now, I like the fact that they kind of, college football always holds the New Year's Eve, New Year's Day kind of thing. We'll see what happens when those dates in a couple of years fall on a weekend. But for now, I like it. The playoff semifinals, Thursday and Friday. So you don't have a Wednesday. It moves ahead just a little bit. So every team will have at least a full week off before going to the playoff semifinals to play the teams on a bye. And that is the Fiesta Bowl on Thursday, January 8th. That game's at 7:30 on ESPN. And then the following day, you got the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl on Friday, January 9th. The national championship hasn't changed, folks. In case you were hoping or advocating for it to be moved to a Saturday, it is still going to be on a Monday. Monday, January 19th is the College Football National Championship 2026. It'll be held in Miami this season. And again, 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Are you one of those folks that like the College Football National Championship on a Monday? I know there's a huge portion of folks that like it on Saturday or would want it on a Saturday because that's like when you think of college football. Now, obviously, you got to fight with NFL playoffs at the exact same time. I think that's why they do it on a Monday. If you have another reason why they do it on Monday, let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's the main reason. Would it be cool to have it on a Saturday? I think it'd be better for folks that have to go to work on Tuesday, especially since this game is starting at almost 8 o'clock Eastern time. The game usually doesn't end till close to 11:30 Eastern, right? So, yeah, I could totally see why you'd want it on the weekend. No doubt about that. But there you go. Mark those in your calendar. Maybe go ahead and check some flights, especially that Monday, January 19th game, because that'd be what, Kansas State's 15th, 16th game of the schedule, right? I don't know if I have as many Avery Johnson Strawberry Lemonades, 15, 16 games. Might have to order a second pack. All right, folks, thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Draft with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez as your favorite collegiate players get ready for the next level. Get your latest draft rankings, rumors, and news every day. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And come on back here later on Locked On Kansas State. We'll have another episode. We're diving into more college athletic ideas, house settlement collective buyouts, a trade, official trade in college sports. Is that a thing? And then a whole bunch of longstanding rules in the NCAA are getting possibly eliminated, and it's going to affect not only the rules of the NCAA, but eligibility and media eligibility of some of these players. So we'll talk about all of that next later on this afternoon. We'll see you back here real soon. But until then, please like the video, please subscribe. And this has been Locked On Kansas State.